Hello to the second part of chapter 16 called The Ship of Herman Melville's Moby Dick. And I'll start a couple of sentences before I stopped the last time. There was nothing so very peculiar, perhaps, about the appearance of the elderly man I saw. He was brown and brawny like most old seamen and heavily rolled up in blue pilot cloth, cut in the Quaker style, only there was a fine and almost microscopic network of the minutest wrinkles interlacing round his eyes, which must have arisen from his continual sailings in many hard gales, and always looking to windward. For these causes the muscles about the eyes to become pursed together. Such eye wrinkles are very effectual in a scowl. "Is this the captain of the Pequod?" said I, advancing to the door of the tent.
"Supposing it be the captain of the Pequod, what dost thou want of him?" he demanded.
"I was thinking of shipping."
"Thou wast thou? I see thou art no Nantucketer. Ever been in a stove boat?"
"No, sir, I never have."
"Dost know nothing about whaling, dare I say,
"Nothing, sir. But I have no doubt I shall soon learn. I've been several voyages in the merchant service, and I think that—"
"Merchant service be damned! Talk not that lingo to me. Dost see that leg? I'll take that leg away from thy stern if ever thou talkest of the merchant service to me again. Merchant service, indeed. I suppose now you feel considerable proud of having served in those merchant ships. But flukes! Man, what makes thee want to go a-whaling, It looks a little suspicious, don't it, Hast not been a pirate, hast thou? Didst not rob thy last captain, didst thou? Dost not think of murdering the officers when thou gettest to sea?"
I protested my innocence of these things. I saw that under the mask of these half-humorous innuendos, this old seaman, as an insulated Quakerish Nantucketer, was full of his insular prejudices and rather distrustful of all aliens, unless they hailed from Cape Cod or the vineyard.
"But what takes thee a-whaling? I want to know that before I think of shipping ye."
"Well, sir, I want to see what whaling is. I want to see the world."
"Want to see what whaling is, Have you clapped eye on Captain Ahab?"
"Who is Captain Ahab, sir?"
Aye, I thought so. Captain Ahab is the captain of this ship."
"I am mistaken then. I thought I was speaking to the captain himself."
"Thou art speaking to Captain Peleg. That's who ye art speaking to, young man. It belongs to me and Captain Bildad to see the Pequod fitted out for the voyage and supplied with all her needs, including crew. We are part owners and agents. But as I was going to say, if thou wantest to know what whaling is, and thou tellest you do, I can put you in a way of finding it out before you bind yourself to it, past backing out. Clap eye on Captain Ahab, young man, and thou wilt find that he has only one leg."
"What do you mean, sir? Was the other one lost by a whale?"
"Lost by a whale, young man, come nearer to me. It was devoured, chewed up, crunched by the monstrousest parmacetti that ever chipped a boat,
I was a little alarmed by his energy, perhaps also a little touched by the hearty grief in his concluding exclamation, but said as calmly as I could, "What you say is no doubt true enough, sir, but how could I know there was any peculiar ferocity in that particular whale, though indeed I might have inferred as much from the simple fact of the accident?"
Look you now, young man, thy lungs are sort of soft. D'ye see? Thou dost not talk shark a bit. Sure, you've been to sea before now. Sure of that?
Sir, said I thought I told you that I had been 4 voyages in the merchant.
Heart down out of that. Mind what I said about the merchant service. Don't aggravate me. I won't have it. But let us understand each other. I have given thee a hint about what whaling is. Do ye yet feel inclined for it?
I do, sir.
Very good. Now, art thou the man to pitch a harpoon down a live whale's throat and then jump after it? Answer quick.
I am, sir. If it should be positively indispensable to do so, not to be got rid of, that is, which I don't take to be the fact.
Good again. Now then, thou not only wantest to go a whaling, to find out by experience what whaling is, but ye also want to go in order to see the world? Was not that what ye said? I thought so. Well then, just step forward there and take a peep over the weather bow, and then back to me and tell me what you see there.
For a moment I stood a little puzzled by this curious request, not knowing exactly how to take it, whether humorously or in earnest, but concentrating all his crow's feet into one scowl, Captain Peleg started me on the errand. Going forward and glancing over the weather bow, I perceived that the ship, swinging to her anchor with the flood tide, was now obliquely pointing towards the open ocean. The prospect was unlimited, but exceedingly monotonous and forbidding, not the slightest variety that I could see.
"Well, what's the report?"
said Peleg when I came back.
"What did you see?"
"Not much," I replied. "Nothing but water. Considerable horizon, though, and there's a squall coming up, I think."
"Well, what dost thou think, then, of seeing the world? Do you wish to go round Cape Horn to see any more of it, eh? Can't you see the world where you stand?"
I was a little staggered, but go a-whaling I must, and I would, and the Pequod was as good as a ship as any, I thought, the best, and all this I now repeated to Peleg. Seeing me so determined, he expressed his willingness to ship me.
"And thou mayst as well sign the papers right off," he added. "Come along with you."
And so saying, he led the way below the deck into the cabin. Seated on the transom was what seemed to me a most uncommon and surprising figure. It turned out to be Captain Bildad, who, along with Captain Peleg, was one of the largest owners of the vessel. The other shares, as is sometimes the case in these ports, being held by a crowd of old annuitants, widows, fatherless children, and chancery wards, each owning about the value of a timber head or a foot of plank, or a nail or two in the ship. People in Nantucket invest their money in whaling vessels, the same way that you do yours in approved state stocks, bringing in good interest. Now Bildad, like Peleg, and indeed many other Nantucketers, was a Quaker, the island having been originally settled by that sect, and to this day its inhabitants in general retain in an uncommon measure the peculiarities of the Quaker, only variously and anomalously modified by the things altogether alien and heterogeneous. For some of these same Quakers are the most sanguinary of all sailors and whale hunters. They are fighting Quakers. They are Quakers with vengeance. So that there are instances among them of men who, named with Scripture, names a singularly common fashion on the island, and in childhood naturally imbibing the stately dramatic thee and thou of the Quaker idiom. Still, from the audacious, daring, and boundless adventure of their subsequent lives, strangely blend with these outgrown peculiarities, 1,000 bold dashes of character not unworthy a Scandinavian sea king or a poetical pagan Roman. And when these things unite in a man of greatly superior nature force, with a globular brain and a ponderous heart, who has also by the stillness and seclusion of many long night watches in the remotest waters and beneath constellations never seen here at the north, been led to think untraditionally and independently, receiving all nature's sweet or savage impressions fresh from her own virgin, voluntary, and confiding breast, and thereby chiefly, but with some help from accidental advantages, to learn a bold and nervous lofty language that man takes on one in a whole nation's senses. A mighty pageant creature formed for noble tragedies. Nor will it all that detract from him, dramatically regarded, if either by birth or other circumstances he have what seems a half-wilful, overruling morbidness at the bottom of his nature. For all men tragically great are made so through a certain morbidness. Be sure of this. O young ambition, all mortal greatness is but disease. But as yet we have not to do with such an one, but with quite another, and still a man who, if indeed peculiar, it only results again from another phase of the Quaker, modified by individual circumstances. So that was part 2 of chapter 16. Bye-bye. Till next time.